This is the Bank Nifty daily charts. You can see the market continued a slight upward trend from yesterday's bounce back. Uh, this is the 15-minute chart. Now, couple of things that I want to discuss before I get into this. So one of the things that I wanted to experiment was, can I look at options selling in a couple of stocks? And essentially that's what I did yesterday. The thought process was to catch the F&O stocks that have made the highest run for that particular day. And yesterday it was Glenmark and Borosoft. I think Glenmark had ran up almost 10%. Now this is the chart of Glenmark. If you see the daily chart, you can see that yesterday it had made this massive move. So the idea was that today there might be some amount of profit booking in the place. And if this is a 5-minute chart, you can see that in the first candle itself it started moving downwards. And one of the things that I made a mistake of, which actually ended up affecting all of yesterday's sort of trading sessions, was this big mistake. Was, even though I thought the market might correct, and it did do some amount of correction, right? It opened up around 517 or so and went down to about 510. Typically in Bank Nifty, you're used to getting bigger volumes. I wanted to try and see, with smaller volumes, less volatility, can something like that actually happen in the stock? But what ended up happening here is I actually sold it at market instead of limit, and what was a premium of 10 odd rupees for the strike price of 510 or so, I ended up purchasing it, or rather selling it, at 5 rupees or so. And then from there, everything that I was trying to do was trying to recover my losses by just making that initial mistake, right? So I did that, the market bounced, and what was 5 rupees ended up becoming 7, 8, 9, 10. So eventually all I was trying to do was try and ensure that my losses were limited. Whereas in that panic situation, I made the mistake the first time, understandably, putting market instead of limit and getting a huge price difference. But then the second mistake was I kept holding on and forgot about my stop loss, thinking that I'll try and recover the money. And eventually, I just got mentally frustrated and fatigued to try and account for all these silly changes and try and make up as much ground as I can. Eventually, I think just by about here or so, about 10 o'clock or so, I had called it quits, right? So, but that 45 minutes was an ordeal, right? And it took a completely mental toll on me, and I was exhausted through the day. Now, when I go back to the Bank Nifty, it's one of those days in the Bank Nifty where things aren't going your way, right? I was looking at here potentially getting into a trend reversal. We got one trade, and then the market just kept bouncing up. So again, around here, I was thinking that the market might reverse. It didn't, uh, and I think over here I got one, and over here eventually I was so mentally exhausted I had to call it quits. But if I paid attention and do what I usually do, which is just constantly switch, I could have seen that this, um, right, this is the hourly chart. You can see that the hourly charts were not only here, right? And I only noticed this when I was doing the work, right? If I was seeing the hourly charts, not here, but since the high, you can see that the market's taking some support of this potential trend line, right? And when it hit this, it is a possible sign of reversal, right? And I kind of missed that and sort of missed taking an opportunity of getting this potential trend as well. Now coming back to today, today is a new day. I'm a little more excited about what we have today. It's not only the weekly expiry but monthly expiry, so there can be some amount of volatility expected. So one of the things that I'm definitely looking at is this range, right? Market stayed relatively range bound. I'll make this color different. Is the low of today. I want to see what happens around here. The other thing is the high of today, right? What will happen to the market around here? So I'm looking at 37,200 odd levels to try and see if there's a breakdown, but then there's 37,000 only. I don't see it going below, and if it does, then 36,600 is a strong support, and if it breaks 36,600, then I'm thinking the sentiment will be completely weak and it can go further down. But I would think that the market may stay between 37,000 and 37,800 in today's day, but it depends on where the market opens and closes, right? This level, I think, in the morning should not break, but if it does, then essentially we've got to try and figure out what to do. But I think 37,000 might be a good support because we've got a zone here, and you can see that there's been some amount of swing around this 37,000. So I think that's what we've got to look for. On the upside, we've got 37,800 or so to be there, and then 38,200. But I'm not sure about the upside because every time the market's going up, like if you saw the trend line, it's constantly getting shot back down. So I would plan more for a range bound action, or at least between 37 and 37 800 900 to be on the safe side. If it breaks the 37, I think 36.6 is going to be a critical support because every time it's bouncing or touching here, it's bouncing back quickly. So this would be my game plan for today, walking in what should be done. Um, but the critical thing will be, have I actually gotten past yesterday's silly mistakes and not let that affect me in the next day's trading? So overall, that's kind of what we need to do. Be aware of silly mistakes that we've made, learn from it, and actually move on from it, and not kind of keep dwelling on it. Um, Slightly different video than what I usually make, but I felt that this is important for me to document because this is a mistake that I have made multiple times, and this is the first time that I'm feeling really guilty about it and unable to let go of it as easily as I would have done with other mistakes. So, have to wait and watch to see what happens. Idea is to build positions so that we can end our week in profit.